Did You Win Gaming, and we're playing Zen Bound 2. We're on the second tree. What is this called? Menu. The tree of vitality. So, the name of this episode is, I guess, Anticipation. Oh, I don't even know where to start for this. Look how beautiful the wood texture is on this. It's just gorgeous, just stunning. I really like this game because it helps me to slow down. I found that during day-to-day tasks, I like to hurry through them as quickly as possible so that I can get done with work. I guess is how I would put it. And was doing things so quickly, so mindlessly, that I wasn't even remembering what I was doing. I wasn't there for it. I was just doing it. And I guess this kind of speaks to the last episode of just doing things to stay busy so that you don't have to listen to the quiet in my mind. But when it really hit me when I had discovered I had eaten a meal and I hadn't remembered actually any of the experience itself. I could barely remember what it was that I had eaten, and it wasn't as though I had memory issues. It's just that I wasn't actually there for the meal. I wasn't there for a lot of things. Just kind of hurrying so that I could get to whatever it is that I wanted to enjoy. But that also led me to hurry through the things that I really enjoyed, like reading. I found myself, instead of really reading the book that I was enjoying, this book by, I think, Richard Cadre is his name. I absolutely love it. I was just kind of skimming through the words looking for dialogue so that I could see where the plot was going instead of reading it. And it really bothered me, because what's the point in being here if not to experience life, if not to experience it with all of our senses? And how often do we go through our day mindlessly, just trying to hurry through work, or hurry through meals, or hurry through conversations, hurrying because we just want to hurry up and say what we want to say. We're not actually listening to what other people are saying, or hurrying so we can just get out of bed. I know there was a time in my life where I would dread the alarm clock. And it wasn't because I didn't want to get out of bed. It was more than that. It was because I didn't want to do the day. I think there's an important distinction there between not wanting to get out of bed because it's comfortable and you're sleeping, but versus not wanting to get out of bed because you don't want to people. You don't see a reason to. It's like, what is the point? I'm working a job that I hate, and I'm just kind of breathing to live and not really experiencing any of what life should be. being in the moment, any moment, all moments, probably not all moments at the same time, but truly being in the moment, really stopping, really listening to the music, not just listening but hearing it, really looking at what I'm doing, seeing the beautiful green, and kind of hearing the texture of the rope as it hits across, slides across corners, and really being here for this, slowing down and being here for this. It's a habit that I want to cultivate, and being in the moment, each moment, with all 5 senses is an important skill to have, and I think one of the 2 best tools for any type of mental health, anxiety, or depression, because being in the moment can help calm down anxiety. I mean, unless you're in a dangerous situation, obviously you're gonna be anxious about that. Your life's in danger. But really being in the moment is beautiful because you can use it specifically for me. I was using it specifically to kind of remind myself that food tastes really good, and I live to eat food that tastes good, instead of just shoveling shit in my mouth. But to really stop and take a bite and experience that bite 100% with all of my senses, smelling the meal before I eat it, or really looking at it, looking at the colors, using particular forks and spoons. I have a new dish set that I absolutely love that I got from Bed Bath & Beyond. I think it's called Night Sky. It's a gorgeous blue. And I get so excited in the morning to drink coffee out of that mug because the texture of it, the colors of it, the feel of it, the smell of the coffee, like that feels so good to me. And that is in the moment. It brings me back to that moment. It grounds me. And when I'm able to stop the busyness of my day, the busyness of the to-do list going on in my head over and over again, and really enjoy life with all of my senses, it feels worth it again. It feels like I get excited to get out of bed because I'm going to experience new things with all of me, the wholeness of me. I get excited about making that coffee, each step of making that coffee. Like I've said in previous episodes, I'm drinking this World Market Tahitian vanilla blend. Now, I'm not pushing the product, but I fucking love it, and I get excited about it. And my microphone smells like vanilla now because I drink coffee and I stream. But drinking that, and I've got like a non-dairy creamer that I put in there, Ripple, that I get from Target. I love it. And the whole experience of it is so pleasing. And in the morning, I used to just kind of slam my coffee so that I would wake up. And I was constantly pushing my body back and forth. I needed to be asleep by a particular time. If I didn't fall asleep immediately, I would start to get anxiety because I wasn't asleep by 9 o'clock. Well, great, I'm going to be up all night. Well, how helpful is that? And so learning to relax and just really kind of soak in the moment with all of my senses has become this new art form that I really, really like. I guess it's just being a sensualist. And I've never really been a big sensualist. I'm like, oh yeah, I like that. It feels soft. You know, or I like things that are pretty. But it was all really superficial. And I just wasn't really in my body in a lot of ways. I was just running around doing things as quickly as possible so that I could deem myself as successful, and that somehow if I was successful enough, I would feel good enough. Feel good enough. And lately I'm realizing how absolutely toxic that is, but also how easy it can be to combat that by just stopping and really being in the moment, whatever that is. I don't always have to be eating or drinking something to be in the moment, I guess. But just walking down the hallway and seeing the color of the walls, or listening to any noise that you hear, trying to take in again the world with all of your senses. It stops your mind, and it helps relax the body, because I think the mind doesn't feel useful unless it's telling you what to do over and over again. It's like a nagging mother trying to protect you. And I mean, yeah, you need something to tell you that maybe you should put on a coat before you go into a storm, but you don't need someone to tell you to avoid the storm, because maybe you don't want to. Maybe it's beautiful. And listening to your heart when it tells you to do something, and when you do it, be there for it 100%. Whether it's drinking coffee or eating breakfast. And if it doesn't feel good, like if it doesn't taste good and you're not enjoying it, don't fucking do it. I think Marie Kondo really, she really captured a trend when she said, if it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. And in my head, I like dichotomy. And so there's a scene in, what movie is it? Hold on, I'll get there. There's a movie with Ben Affleck, Janine Garofalo. And they're all superheroes, and it's ridiculous. I can't remember it. Anyways, I'm sorry, it's not even Ben Affleck. I can't figure it out. Hold on. So they're all superheroes. And the main character, he's at work. He's in a junkyard. And he brings stuff in to the woman who owns the junkyard. She's this really abrasive older woman. And whenever he brings something in and he says, oh, we should keep this, she says, junk it. And I love that. I kind of combine that with what Marie Kondo says. Like, if it doesn't bring you joy, junk it. And that's kind of been a motto in our house lately as we're trying to get rid of the clutter, you know. I just found it really, really amusing. Especially when you have the dichotomy of the woman from this movie, which I'll tell you. Hold on, I'm looking it up. And then Marie Kondo and her, like, very organized, very kind. You know, if it doesn't bring you joy, junk it. And it's not a bad way to look at life, because if it doesn't bring you joy, junk it. Don't keep putting your time and effort into it if it doesn't bring you fucking joy. Where is this movie? Was it in the 90s? And there was another character who's also very famous, and his character was the Blue Raja, and Janine Garofalo was like the bowler. What is the name of this? We'll get there. Is that Ben Affleck that was in that? Fuck. We'll get there. Any minute. So, Mystery Men, 1999, with Hank Azaria as the Blue Raja. Okay, yeah, this is a great movie. It's ridiculous. It doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's kind of like Deadpool before Deadpool. Yeah, and there's like I said, a small scene where the main character is at work in a junkyard. Anyways, you should watch it. It's a lot of fun. And take it with you. Like, if what you're doing isn't moving you towards your passion or what brings you joy, then don't do it. Life is too short for that shit. And if you're having a hard time with that, then I guess pay attention to the things that really bring you joy as you're doing something. What sparks you? What's the one thing you would do if money wasn't an issue? Would you travel? Would you write? Would you research? What would you do? Or are you just doing things that you think that you're supposed to do? The things that society has told you are what's supposed to make you happy. Like, shopping and wearing a particular color of the season. I mean, that might actually bring you a lot of joy. And if so, then hooray. But if that's something that brings you joy because it brings you joy, that's one thing. But if something you think is going to bring you joy because Cosmopolitan says it's going to bring you joy, that's different. That's very different. And in the end, I don't think that's going to bring you joy. When you listen to music, really listen to it. Oh, it's Ben Stiller, not Ben Affleck. Ben Stiller. If you've listened to any of my other episodes, you'll know that I'm not always spot on with the whole movie actor thing. You'd think I'd never watched a movie in my life, but I have. I watch a lot of movies. I just watched the new Spider-Man Out of Town or Off the Map or whatever the fuck it's called, but it was good. I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but it was fun. See, whenever I start to get kind of like frustrated with the fact that I've got to wrap this entire thing, I remind myself that A, this is a choice. I am choosing to play this game. B, I do enjoy it when I don't get hung up on the achievements, but when I just kind of do it to enjoy it. And I listen to the music because it's kind of fun. I've been playing with the idea of creating music. And I've made one or two little things intermittently with Music Maker. So much fun. So much fun. I think that we should all make anything you can. Who cares if it sucks? Just make it. Because it might be something that someone is super inspired by. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not going to resonate with someone else. Because we all have very, very different patterns. We all have very different life journeys, and you just never know. I'm blown away by the fact that people buy pieces of art with just like a single blank canvas with a orange box on it. Like, I don't know how some people really connect with that. And I'm not judging it. I just don't understand it. I wonder if as a country we still do that. Like, if we don't agree, can we still be friends? It seems like sometimes no. Or people wanting to understand someone else's point of view, whether or not they still agree with it. Like, nobody wants to understand a different point of view. I do. I really want to hear other people's point of view. Tell me your life story. I want to know. Tell me what it's like for you. Tell me why you didn't like that movie, or you didn't like that book, or you don't like that artist. Tell me why you didn't like that game. I don't want to hear, I just didn't like it. I want to know why I didn't like it. Fundamentally, there's a lot to say. There's a lot that you can learn about yourself when you pay attention to things that you do and don't like. For example, I can only take playing The Division for a short amount of time, and I can only take so much of it when I'm playing with my partner, because if I can't keep up with them, then I feel like I'm being left behind, and that's all my story, that's all my garbage. But I get frustrated if I can't do things as well as they can. And when I realized how frustrated I was getting with gaming and playing The Division, it's really eye-opening to see that, oh, okay, I'm clearly afraid that I'm going to be left behind, or that I'm just not good enough. Again, there's that good enough thing. Core beliefs, they'll slow you down. If you've got bad core beliefs, like I'm not good enough, they will get in the way. And I didn't feel like I needed to be frustrated all the time, but it wasn't like I was judging it. What I really noticed about it was that the frustration it didn't feel good, like physically or emotionally. The story I was telling myself is that I just wasn't good enough, and I had to be better, and if I wasn't lovable. How much of that is actually true? I've ran out of rope. Fiddlesticks. Core beliefs are a fascinating topic. Like, look at that. That is a hot mess. But that's okay. It's kind of pretty. I like it. I could either judge this and say it's total shit, or I could just kind of take it in for what it is and all its flaws. It's part of the journey. The transition is so loud. It's child's pose. So when I realized how angry and frustrated I was initially, I kind of leaned into it, and I started really getting into it. I'd yell and scream. When I was growing up, I never felt comfortable expressing anger or sadness. Like, if I did, I would get in trouble, right? I'm sure there are people out there who also can relate to that. So I just kind of leaned into it, and I was like, okay, well, this is where I'm going to express my anger in a healthy way. And so I would play, and I'd get really mad, and I'd cuss, and I'd scream. And it just really wasn't doing the job for me. Like, whatever I thought that I was doing to help express my feelings wasn't working. Because I think it's important to to kind of let your feelings in and express them and identify them. And it's like, if I'm angry, well, just expressing it is only part of it. And so the yelling and screaming, yeah, that did a little bit, but it wasn't like I was expressing it and then doing something useful with it. So when I realized that I was just yelling and screaming at the monitor and making everybody kind of on edge, my cat was thoroughly unimpressed. I realized that it had to be more than that. I mean, I wanted more than that. I didn't want to be uncomfortable anymore. And so instead of just avoiding these feelings, if I express them, I'll feel better, right? But that isn't what happened. So as I started to express how I felt, that was only one piece of it. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm just yelling and screaming at my monitor and I'm still frustrated. But the underlying reason for the frustration is what's important. I love the pink on this. It is so pretty. It reminds me of pink lemonade or frosting, and I just want to like eat something now. And so with emotions, it's really important to identify that you have to stop and identify that you have an emotion. I mean the 5 basic emotions: angry, sad, happy, I don't know. Angry, sad, happy, disgust is 4. Fear. And fear. Maybe fear's really more a mixture of certain things, but or jealousy. So yeah, fear. Fear is the 5th one. And more than that, to identify why you're feeling that fear. Your feelings are your friends. I know that sounds like such a trope. Your friends are your feelings. Your feelings are your friends. But it's not just that. So I was angry. And I was frustrated. Why was I angry and frustrated? Because I was telling the story that if I wasn't a good enough video game player, as ridiculous as that is, but when you start saying it, you realize it. That if I wasn't a good enough video game player, that I was going to leave my partner. Or my partner was going to leave me. So, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, then I also had the core belief that if my partner left me, that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't lovable, and that somehow my partner, what they did, dictated my self-worth. So if he didn't stay with me, then does that mean that I'm just not good enough to love? I'm not good enough, period? And no, that's not true at all. And your self-worth is not based on who you're with or what your partner, like if your partner decides that they want to, do something else and you're not going to be together anymore, or they want to have relationships with other people. That's not on you. That's not your self-worth. But I digress again a lot. Feelings, they're important. And when you get down to it, it made sense that I was angry because I had these core beliefs that were so poisonous to me. And I just was kind of jumping into them, and it all went down to playing a video game that I was supposed to be enjoying, and at a fundamental level, if I failed on any way, I wasn't lovable. And when you kind of pull back from the feelings of frustration, you realize how kind of scared and lonely life can be when you tell yourself that story over and over again, and those core beliefs that I'm not good enough. And I fucking hated it. I wanted to be happy. I mean, I want to be happy. I am happy now. I'm much healthier than I have been in a long, long time. And it's just, it comes down to realizing that I want to be happy, and by God, I deserve to be happy. And then the next step, like, what is happiness to me? And I got so caught up in happiness is not being depressed. And so then happiness was kind of, the idea of happiness was based around depression instead of the happiness. And then, okay, so if happiness is not depression, is not having depression, then how do I get rid of depression? And then again, it's the focus on the depression. And I would read self-help books, and I would do all the right things. I would eat right and exercise and like, I am a good person and I love myself, and positive affirmations every day, and I was like, what the fuck? And I still would occasionally feel depressed, and I thought that somehow that was the failure again. And so it was the focus on the failure, the focus on the pain and the unhappiness. But I've really come to discover that the journey of mental health isn't about fixing the mental health. It's not about no longer being depressed. It's about what healthy looks like to you. What does healthy look like? Like happy. What does healthy and happy look like to you on a daily basis? Because we can't escape our past. We can't change it. If we ignore it, it's just gonna kind of sit right outside the door and come back and eventually bite you in the ass. I like the analogy of feelings as being like your brain is a house, and your feelings come to the front door, and you have to invite them in and sit them down at the dining room table and give them room to express how they feel, like an old friend. Like if anger shows up, you can either close the door on anger when he's knocking, or you can open the door and let anger in and give anger a cup of tea and say, what's going on? Tell me why you're here. And angry will maybe sit there for a minute, or angry might say, well, I'm really pissed off about these things. Like, I'm going to school for a degree that I don't think is going to actually get me a job. Or I'm angry that my parents said that they were going to do X and instead they did Y. And I know I don't feel like I can really trust them. And I don't feel comfortable talking with them about it because they're my parents. They might kick me out. Oh, there's so many things to worry about in life. But the glory of it is that what I've learned is you don't have to do that. You have control over your thoughts, and your thoughts are what dictate how you feel. And when I came across that realization, I was blown away. So if what I think creates how I feel, i.e., I'm not enough, is my thought. And what I feel is fear masked in frustration and anger. And then I act. I act on those feelings by trying to control the environment, or by yelling at my computer screen, rage quitting. I can change that. Whenever I start to ruminate on I'm not good enough, I start to think every single time. My thoughts start to go over and over again. I'm not good enough. I am good enough. I'm more than good enough. This is a very big tree. And that's kind of a relief. That sometimes we feel like we don't have control over anything in life, but we do. We have control over what we think. And it takes some work, but it can happen. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and checking in and listening. I hope this has been helpful for you and that you feel good. And and we'll come back and we'll play more of this pretty regularly, probably weekly. So check in, and if you miss it on Twitch, then please feel free to catch it up on YouTube. Again, this is Narina with Digitwin Gaming, and thanks for showing up. I appreciate all of you for who you are and just for checking in. Have a blessed day.